And our x-intercepts are also known as the roots, solutions, the zeros, and the value of x when y is equal to 0. And this might look familiar to you because you did learn this your freshman year or when you were in Algebra 1. All right, so there are 3 types of solution. The first one is when we have no solution. This is an example of no solution. And this is an example of no solution. Because we're looking for x-intercepts, if you notice, this is my x-axis. Notice how the graph is not intersecting at all. So there are no x-intercepts, so it does not cross or intersect the x-axis. Okay, the second type is when we have one solution. This is an example, This is an example of one solution. And this is an example of one solution because it has one x-intercept. So we have one intersection on the x-axis. What else is special about that point? What is that point called? The vertex, yes, or the minimum or maximum, right? So the intersection or the x-intercept is the vertex, also known as your minimum or maximum. And then the last solution type is when we have two solutions. And when we have two solutions, this is an example of two solutions. And this is an example of two solutions. And that's when we have two x-intercepts. So this one intersects, so two intersections on x-axis. And that's it. Question so far? Pretty simple. All right, here we go. There we go. So if we were to have this graph, how many solutions do we say it has? Or can we say it has? Two solutions. And my solutions are at x equals -2 and x equals 4. Now we're going to go a step further. And we're going to write the equation assuming that a is equal to 1 from the solutions. So we're going to write down solutions, or let's say from solutions to factored form. Of equation. Now remember when we were writing equations in factored form, we would get the x-intercepts and then we would put them in the equation. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to get x is equal to -2, the example we just did, and x is equal to 4. And remember that x lies in the equation. So because x lies in my equation, my first factor is going to be x plus 2, because remember it's opposite. And my second one is going to be x minus 4, because again, it is its opposite inside the equation. So my equation is f of x equals x plus 2 and x minus 4. So on Wednesday, we're going to be factoring from standard form, and then from the equation, we're going to find its solutions. So we're going to practice that here so you can see that we go back to our original solutions. So from here, we're going to go from factored form to solutions. Now for us to be able to do that, we need to set our equation equal to 0. Now why do we do that? We've got f of x equals x plus 2 and x minus 4. And what's another way for us to say f of x? Y. So y is equal to x plus 2, x minus 4. And when we solve for x, we want to set our y equal to 0. Remember initially when we came up here, when we said that it's the value of x when y is equal to 0. So we need to set the equation equal to 0, which is my y. We're going to make that equal to 0 so we can solve for our values of x. Now you don't have to write this next part. I think it's very important that we know why we make it equal to, or why we put each equation equal to 0, because that way it makes sense to you and it's not just some thing that just happens. In order for a product, remember we're multiplying, to be equal to 0, one of them has to be equal to 0, right? Either one or both of them. So because that's true, if my equation is equal to 0, then either x plus 2 has to be equal to 0 or x minus 4 has to be equal to 0. So we're going to solve for x on both. So we get minus 2, subtract 2, and we get x is equal to negative 2. We add 4 to solve for x, and we get x is equal to 4, which is exactly the same numbers we got when we first started. Does everybody see that? All right, so go ahead and write this part down. We're going to do 3 more examples. All right, any questions? So this is just a little solve by factoring. Yes. Sure. And again, we'll do that again on Wednesday, or we'll do more of those on Wednesday. All right, let's go ahead and go to number 2, our second example. All right, how many solutions do we have? 2. And my 2 solutions are at x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 5. And for the sake of practice, we're going to write it in factored form, or the equation in factored form. So, and we're going to assume that my a value is 1. So f of x is equal to x opposite of my first root, and then x opposite of my second root. Now what's missing from that function or that equation? What kind of function do we have, positive or negative? It's negative, right? It's looking down, it's facing downward, so it's negative. So in my equation, I'm missing that negative. All right, so we set our equation equal to 0. for the sake of practice for tomorrow. So now we're going to solve. We're going backwards. Make it equal to y, which means it's equal to 0. So we can solve. And we get x minus 2 and x minus 5. Now that negative does nothing for us to when we're actually solving, because if we're solving and I have a -1 here, I can divide this by -1 and this by -1. That cancels. We still end up with 0. And we end up with this. So the negative doesn't really matter. I'm going to erase it. I just wanted to make sure you guys saw that. All right, so now that we have our equation equal to 0, so we can solve, we're going to separate them into two equations. X minus 2 equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0, and we solve for x. X is equal to positive 2, and x is equal to positive 5. And those are the same roots we had from the beginning, or solutions. Now the way you'll see it is you'll see it as a set with brackets. So you'll have 2, 5, and those would be my solutions. Okay, let's do 2 more. Second to last one. This one is only going to have one solution. And remember, my solution is at my vertex. So this one has one solution. And my solution is at x is equal to 4. Now this one's written a little bit different because it only has one solution. It's like if your solution is going to be 4 twice. So it's like the same solution. So in my equation, I'm going to write x minus 4 squared. That basically means that we have x minus 4 times x minus 4. So you'll also see it this way. Now for us to solve, we need to set the equation equal to 0. So that's equal to y, which is equal to 0. And we got x minus 4, x minus 4. Set each one equal to 0, but I'm only going to do it one time because it's going to be the same answer. And x is equal to 4. So it would look like this. Now, do you have to do this part when you're solving? You don't, but it's good to know. All right, so now we got our last example when we have no solution. Remember, we only concentrate on the x-axis, and since this graph is not intersecting, then it has no solution because there is no x-intercept. Any questions? All right, so if you guys can go to Google Classroom, it should already be posted. It's a quizzes, very short quizzes, and then we'll start factoring on Wednesday.